Right, recording. Yes, people, welcome back to Process. Today we're joined by another guest. We have got Jordan Davison, aka Marksman. Welcome to the podcast, mate.
Cheers, mate.
Don't mind our trims. That's the one thing we're worried about now. Lockdown's getting deep into a few weeks deep now, so the trims are struggling. So we need Batchy back. But great to have you on the podcast. I want to say first of all, thanks for shouting us out on your first episode of your podcast. So appreciate that.
Yeah, totally fine, mate. In all fairness, right, when you like set it up, it was just like give us an extra bit of like motivation to go and do it. Felt like didn't like I say in the podcast, had no confidence to go and do it, and just seeing you like do it actually helped me a lot. So I felt like credit where it's due, really.
And I appreciate that. There's a lot of things in like life that you just need to literally just do it, and then things happen, and like you look back and think like, oh, thank God I've done that then, or like you don't want to look back a year down the line like, oh, I wish I started then. So you're wasting time. But now, fair play. And secondly, me and Jordan done a live hit / football workout like 2 weeks ago or something on Instagram. How much did you struggle with that hit workout?
Oh, hey mate, don't get us started with that, because I was trying to I seen when all the like pro footballers were joining, and I was trying to like keep a good level, and just like towards the end, like I was just dead.
It was
had
tough,
another
to be
2
fair.
sessions after that as well.
Yeah,
horrible.
It was pretty tough, to be fair. But I struggled with the ball skill stuff. I was a bit rusty with that. But anyway, moving on. So just be good to intro to people obviously who don't know you, a little bit about yourself, what you do, and pretty much that.
So basically, what I do, just finished my degree studying sports science and coaching. Outside of my academic stuff, I'm studying my UEFA B course for coaching. So previously as well, done my personal training like yourself in my sports massage. And then the companies that I'm currently running, like you mentioned, is just more or less Marksman one-to-one football coaching. Started off as Marksman striker training, hence the name Marksman. And then from there, it just grew really. And then on the side of that, I've one of the core head coaches at MP1 Performance, which is just more group coaching, private. And then I'm working at my mom's coffee shop on the side on a Sunday. Yeah. So it keeps us dead busy. And then on the weekends when comes back, hopefully, I work for a company called Offbeat, which does the events at Avica and Lavello's. So we'll touch upon them later. But obviously, as you can tell, got a lot going on.
Busy, man. That's good. Like, because it's good to see young lads and stuff that are just constantly doing stuff rather than just like doing the Monday to Friday job and then getting out on the lash and stuff like that. So it's good that you keep yourself busy. So
definitely, mate.
So talking about kind of your journey, I like to talk about people's kind of journey or process, hence the name of the podcast. From, say, when you were at school, did you always kind of, well, first of all, you probably always had an interest, like every single lad, in football.
Yeah.
Because every lad, especially in the Northeast, has a massive interest in football. What certain point did it get to where you kind of thought, maybe I'm going to dive into coaching, or maybe did you pursue football as a young lad? Were you playing at a decent level?
I was playing at I started when I was 4, and then made my way up just grassroots. And then I think it was because I didn't like leaving my friends at grassroots. I wasn't like the most confident kid, and I got trials at some decent clubs, but I just never wanted to really leave my mates, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then at school, PE especially was like the main like reason why I enjoyed going to school. But within my school, I had such a good like group of footballers, and there was like just like being around them constantly was great for me. But then that also on the flip side, it was a negative because it showed me that I knew what I had to do and be at that level to get into academy football, and I knew I was nowhere near their levels. So that's when I started taking an interest into business and also PE and coaching, and I wanted to really just help them achieve their goals, and that's what I was really proud of, because I felt like if I can't do it, I may as well help someone else try and achieve them. So that's more or less what made us get into coaching, and as well as like business sides, I've just always really liked business as well.
Yeah. So what age were you when you started coaching, kind of looking into that side of the game?
So I started volunteering when I was about 14, 15.
Yeah,
So obviously that's like, sometimes it's more unless you peak into football at times in development, youth development anyways. And I think it was about 14, 15. And then that was just volunteering at my local club on a Saturday morning, like 9 o'clock. So yeah, that was where it all started. And from there I just kept volunteering at like Northumberland FA and then work experience there. And then I got a work experience at Newcastle Foundation, and then just kept growing interest and experience, and it just really had started to really I wanted it as a job.
yeah,
So academically though, at the time I wasn't too bright. Like I was actually quite a slow learner in terms of learning stuff that I didn't actually like have an interest in.
hmm
And I think I was predicted really bad results actually. And I think I proved the teachers wrong in GCSE. I know GCSE aren't that hard, but
yeah.
obviously for
It's
me,
still at that age, it is, mate. It's
yeah, definitely. And then I think I went into A levels, and then I struggled massively with that like jump from GCSE to A level. I think the workload was just massively different to
yeah.
GCSEs.
What did you do at
And
A levels? What did you study?
I'd done business, I'd done PE, I'd done ICT,
Yeah.
and done I'd done science, like a BTEC science.
Uh-huh.
So they're all like more or less grasps what I wanted to do in the future. I think I dropped business halfway through because I wasn't doing too well in that. And I thought it was quite hard in terms of doing 4 A levels at the time. And at one point, I actually found it too hard. Like
Uh-huh.
it was that bad. I went to Time Met to do a coaching job, done all the contracts, signed everything. And they actually ordered my tracksuit, like sizes and everything. On the last day, my head just flipped really. Like I went into the office, told them I was going to leave sixth form, and this was in my second year when I was just about to go try and get into university. And then went in, and they said, "You do know you're much capable of doing a lot better and going down that route of going to university, and you can try and get a good job within elite sport through that." And that's where it really motivated me to go and do better just in life in general. And that's where my growth mindset really began, because I felt like beforehand I just accepted being like rubbish and getting told I'm going to get rubbish grades. And I think
Mhm.
that was the turning point when I really like started to excel. And that's how I got into university. I was not predicted to at all. And I
Mhm.
felt like just that having that someone from outside of my like social bubble tell me that I'm capable of doing something, who doesn't really know me but sees me from a other point of perspective, that really gave us them like the motivation I needed to go off and do other things. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, that's more or less from school to now, really.
No, that's good. It's good. You can obviously see you've had like these little stepping stones. Like you obviously, there was a point when you were younger where you might have realised that maybe football wasn't the path. A lot of kids would kind of go down the path of like what they call like losing their head or going off track. But you've obviously then took that say
Mm.
opportunity and say, right now I can put my mind into coaching, which is a good thing. It obviously shows the type of person that you are, which a lot of people, like I said, probably wouldn't be doing that. You went down that path, going Saturday mornings, whatever, doing your coaching, and then you got to A
Oh,
levels and
trust me,
stuff, and
mate.
then yeah.
Trust me, them Saturday mornings, especially when I turned about, I think it's when I turned 17. Like, I'll admit I wasn't the most committed at the time because it was volunteering.
Yeah.
In 17, you just started like, well, you're not meant to, but you start going out and you start like going to used to go to house parties. I don't really see many of them now, by the way.
No.
And sometimes I wouldn't turn up. Sometimes I'd turn up, do like the best session I've ever done in my life. And then sometimes I'd just be half-hearted about it. So I think it's when I really matured was about 18, 19 in terms of coaching. I
Yeah.
felt like, obviously, I feel like you'd be lying if you said you were 14, 15 and you were mature enough to do football coaching or volunteer to I don't know, to a big commitment. I feel like you'd be lying if you said that, really.
Yeah. Do you think there was any reason why you matured? Was there like a moment or like a realization or?
I think it's because I just couldn't do it, turning up hungover, like to football sessions. I felt like I just couldn't do it anymore. And then obviously when I started going to university, I realized the importance of my impact on other people's lives, especially when I'm football coaching, because obviously that's what I went on to study.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like when that's the player's favorite time of the week to come to your session, and you're being half-hearted about it and not giving them the right effort and intensity that they deserve, because that's their best hour of the week. You don't want to ruin their hour of the week, which is, it might be getting away from the parents who constantly argue. It might be them just like getting away from schoolwork. You're their go-to person. You're a role model, really. And that's what really changed it for me.
Yeah.
I think just
That's
learning
good.
about it more.
I think it's just become. I think the older you get, the more mindful you become about things, and I think that's one of the key things that you probably develop, like being mindful. Like the same for me in terms of, I done a podcast a few days ago with someone, and we're talking about PT sessions. Like even though we might have like 10 sessions in one day, just an example, like on a really busy day, that 8th or 9th or 10th session, the person's still coming in, like, and they don't care about the 7 or 8 sessions you've had before. Like they, like the similar sort of situation, they might have like stress at home, they might have an argument with the missus, they might have a crap day at work. They want to come in and just forget about things for that 1 hour and just train hard and feel good. And you've got to, no matter how tired you are, no matter what day you've had, you've got to kind of be there, person to pick them up. So it's good that you develop that at a young age. And I think a lot of people, it takes time for the mindfulness to kind of come. Like for me, it probably took me until like, to really get into it, it's probably like 20-ish, probably like 19, 20, maybe 21. So it takes time kind of thing. And people develop it over certain times through going through situations, or maybe they just have a realization and it hits that age, like, all right, maybe I need to do this kind of thing. But no, that's good. It's very good.
Yeah,
so,
totally agree with you.
So started university. How did you feel like there was a lot of pressure? Like, first of all, when you were at the time at college, doing your college work and stuff, did you feel there was a lot of pressure from other people, or maybe family, or maybe it was just pressure from yourself to kind of go down and like excel at a certain thing? Because I don't know, because you said that you felt like you weren't what you call it, very intellectual or whatever. Did you feel like
there
wasn't a lot of pressure, or there was a lot of pressure because of that?
I felt like I had to do the 3 years. Like, regardless to where I wanted to go in life, I had to do these 3 years, regardless if I liked it or not. In order to like work where I want to work, which is obviously within elite sport, you need a degree currently, or you need to be someone who's played at the highest level. And obviously I'm not that person. So I knew that I have to get academically the best I possibly can, which is obviously doing a degree. So I think it was because I enjoyed sports coaching, I decided to do like one of them dual degrees when they bring 2 subjects together. So I was doing coaching and sports science, so my anatomy, my psychology, my biomechanics, stuff like that. And then alongside my coaching. So obviously that would bring my mark up as well, because I would take a very high interest in coaching while I wasn't that good at my anatomy sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, over the years, obviously I have got better at that sort of stuff. I think like it's when you jump a level, I think it's quite scary into how you react to it. I feel like some people either like really take it on and invest a lot of time into studying, revising, which I'll touch upon later, about how I had to try and juggle all these jobs and
I
as
was
well
going to
as
ask you
uni
about
life.
that as well.
Yeah, I'll talk about that in a bit. But it's just like, I just knew that I had to do it. And regardless of how I liked it or how much I enjoyed it, I had to get through that. So that's what really kept us ticking and focused throughout the full 3 years, even though it did get really stressful and really hard for me personally.
Just a little thing, you touched up on it, how you obviously didn't, there's 2 kind of paths to becoming a top coach kind of thing. There's the one where you see a lot of coaches coming out of football, going into it because they've played at a top level, which is, it is a big advantage kind of thing. Obviously, they still need to do the coaching badges and whatever, but they don't need that university education. And then there's the other path where you're coming at it from more just purely your coaching background. Do you feel it's, first of all, more difficult? And secondly, do you feel like you need to earn people's respect? So I know it's quite a tough question, but just because I remember a lot of coaches and stuff who hadn't like players would say to us about coaches who hadn't played the game, or they maybe only played a game at a lower level, like they don't maybe have the same respect level because they haven't been through the same thing they have. Do you find that
Yeah, it's a good
challenge?
question. That
I
it's
know
a
I've
good
caught you
question.
off guard with this one.
No, in all fairness, I can answer that all right, to be fair, because I feel like you've got to have a balance. Okay, you can be the best football player in the world, and then you can go into a coaching environment totally different, and then you haven't got the right leadership or coaching style. Like, you can gain respect to a certain extent. Like, it's all about the buy-in that you have with the players. And I
Yeah.
feel like if you make a good start, like on a personal one-to-one connection, first of all, that's a benefit, regardless your manners, how you appear to that person, and then your knowledge, and then, like you say, experience of what you've done in the game. So say, I don't know, for an example, say Wayne Rooney's a great player, but then he goes into, like, say, I don't know, starts coaching Watford, for example, don't know why, just random. And then he goes into that environment. Yeah, he's going to get the respect, like you say, straight away because of the career he's had. But then say he wants to play 3-5-2 with a team that's only used to playing 4-3-3 or something like that. Then in the start losing constantly, then he's going to start losing that respect as a manager. Of course, he's always going to keep it as a player. But in terms, I feel like it's a key that you've got, like you say, if coaches have a good knowledge, but they can't replicate or demo the drills, I think that's just as bad. Because you can be the brightest button in the world, but if you can't replicate what you want to demonstrate to the players, they're not going to give you that respect in terms of, well, he can't do it, so why should I listen to him, sort of thing. So yeah, like you say, I think it's all about balance and coaching. If you don't have one thing, then you're going to lose it. And if you don't have the experience, you're going to lose it as well. So that's why I kept coaching and playing throughout. So I was learning as a player and I was learning as a coach. And then I take the different point of views and things like your needs, such as the playing experience, as well as learning from coaches I had, taking the best things away from them, then put them into my coaching experiences. So, like, good question that, because there is a lot of tension within, like, I've realized, especially on Twitter, of people not liking these degree coaches. But I feel like if you've got a balance between both of them, experience and knowledge, then it's all right. I think it was it not Sarri? It was not Sarri, the Chelsea manager and Napoli manager. He didn't actually have a good coaching and playing career. I'm sure he didn't.
Really?
And I'm sure he just developed these badges and experiences, like, as a coach throughout. And now he's playing. I'm sure he's coaching at the elite level. Don't take us on that, because I'm just sure off the top of my head it is him.
There'll be a few, mate. But another point, like, I 100% agree with you. I just thought I'd ask you the question anyway, but I 100% agree. There's got to be a balance. And as well, I've had some dickhead ex-player coaches, like some ones. And I think the ones, like, who are up and coming, who have been through education, are also a lot more mindful. I think they've got that side of it as well, and they think about it from the player's perspective, even if they haven't been a player themselves. And I know a lot of, like, old school footballers who have went on to coach, and they're just like, just dickheads. They don't get that player, like, relationship. Like, they feel like because they've played the game, they think they're better than everybody else, or they think they've done this, that, and the other. And then also as well, I think people who are coming up, they probably feel like they need to earn the respect a bit more. So they maybe respect the players in a certain way or treat them a certain way, which players like more. But 100% agree that, like, you don't have to be an ex-player, you don't have to have played the game to be a good coach, and you've probably got more of that tactical awareness because you're watching the game from above all the time rather than playing the game, because you miss things when you're playing the game as well.
Yeah,
Like,
massively.
I've been in positions when I've played a game and then I've thought I've done the right thing. I've looked back at it on a clip and then it's the complete wrong thing, and my coach has said, "Oh, you should have tried this, 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 and this." That you see the game completely different.
Yeah, definitely. It does open your mind up, coaching. I feel like any player should actually get coaching education, because it might open up a door for them and later down in the line.
Yeah.
It also increases your knowledge of why your coach might do stuff, so you get a better understanding of the coach. And then you also get a better understanding of the game and the tactics. So I feel like down the line in the future, obviously the FA should not only, like, bring out parent education, massive on parent education, needs to improve.
Yeah,
And then
especially for young, you have seen some like
totally,
aggressive parents at young kids' games, like it gets out of hand sometimes.
yeah, and then down the line, player. I know they do a bit of player education, but I don't think in terms of like coaching, etc. They could possibly do more. But yeah, it was a good question. I
Yeah.
like that one. It's a good debate, actually.
Yeah, it is a big debate. Like, there's probably people who have got opinions on it. There's probably players who probably think I would only want to be coached by their next player because they respect them or whatever. But I
Yeah,
think you've got to be very open as a player to what your coach has. And if your coach comes in, he's never played before, but he's tactically fantastic. He gets on with the players. He knows how to like player management and stuff, which I think is what probably. Don't know what your opinion is in terms of player management. It's like nearly up there in terms of importance of being tactically good and having the player manager. Because if you've got all the knowledge in the world and you know how to play formations and set the team up, but the players don't really like it or they don't want to listen to you, then it's pointless.
yeah,
Which is
definitely.
another topic. Anyway, so talking a little bit about your business, obviously Marksman one-to-one crit training. How did it kind of all come about? How old were you when you started it, and how did it all come about?
So I think it was last year actually. So I would have been about 19. Um, oh wait, no, 20. I'm getting my own
Yeah.
birthdays mixed up now. God, I just turned 21. So the initial idea come from me thinking about my previous playing experiences and what annoyed me as a player. So I thought about it. I didn't actually think about it a lot, you know. Like I think it was on the 4th of January. I was bored and I was thinking about business ideas because, like I said, I do like my business, and I was thinking about the multiple income thing, which I was talking about in my podcast, and I felt like players don't get enough attention to reach the top of their game. Like you go in your hour or two a week coaching and you get coached as a team, unless you've got the right resources like you would in the academy to then get your individual coaching.
Yeah.
And I felt like players who obviously were like semi-pro, amateur, that's what I set out at the beginning anyways, amateur going into semi-pro who didn't get the right attention and also to provide enjoyment for those who fell out of the game. Because I feel like when you go into a one-to-one environment, I think you enjoy it a lot more sometimes rather than just going getting absolutely blasted in football, fitness sessions, etc. So I feel like for enjoyment, fitness, and just like confidence, really. I think that's what I set it off originally at. And I chucked myself into the deep end, really. I think it took it. I didn't actually think about setting the business up at all. And I think looking back now, I would have done that differently. Because I started with just publishing the idea. And then I got some graphics created and then tested some drills out with some of my mates who obviously play at a decent level. Got the clothing, got it embroidered, looked the part, got the business cards, insurance. Cost us quite a bit, actually. I think it cost us about 250 pounds just to set it up. But this was just with like a bag of balls, cones, nothing fancy. Then I had to go out, reach out to those who I thought were interested. I didn't do much marketing, if I was honest. I looked at the local football clubs, and then I provided free sessions and taster sessions to teams. So I had to go out there, get my clients. They weren't going to come to me. And then that was all trial and error, really. And it took us about 3 months, I think it did, to actually start generating some sort of an income. And that's in the process of that. In 3 months, I actually thought about just scrapping it all off because I felt like I wasn't achieving anything. Like I put so much time and effort into it to get nothing back. So that's how I more or less started it. And then obviously down the line, it's progressed a bit more.
Yeah. So obviously talking about the one-to-one side of it, you mentioned a little bit like how you felt that there isn't enough attention put on individual players in training sessions, and I even feel kind of even at like academy level and stuff like that, there is occasional times where coaches would do one-to-one stuff here, but like for me as a goalkeeper, you do get that like quite a lot. But as an outfield player, I feel like you don't really get that, and everybody's got their individual weaknesses. And I think the point that you made as well about building people's confidence, if you're getting one-to-one stuff, you're like the center of attention in a way. And I think a lot of players do need that, especially ones that maybe the head's down or they fell out of love with the game or the confidence has dropped sort of thing. And I think that one-to-one time there's like a gap in the market for it. Like I've never really I've heard of a few people in terms of goalkeeping. I've heard of one-to-one training, but outfielding and stuff, I haven't
Yeah,
really heard
there's
too
tons
much.
of
So
goalkeepers. Yeah.
yeah, there's loads of goalkeeping stuff, but for outfield, there definitely isn't sort of stuff. So it just goes to show you started off with like little bits and bobs and stuff. So which kind of team, what level was the team that you were going to? Was it just like amateur,
So
semi-pro?
the first ones I was setting out to were just local ones within my area of where I live, and they were just youth amateurs really.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of setting that up, I just had to. That's who I aimed it at originally. All the media that I put out was just more aimed at kids.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, I set out deliberately. I wanted to put out the best possible I could at the time. Media and also the quality of the sessions was key, because I felt like if I've got these qualifications, I need to use them to my full extent. And I don't like people or coaches who are in it for themselves,
Yeah.
for just the money. I felt like you're only going to be 50% of the 100% you can be if you're just in it for the money. Because if obviously you like yourself, you're in it because you enjoy it,
You
you
love it,
want to
yeah.
make a change, and you take an interest yourself. I feel like if you're just taking an interest in the subject yourself and you're just in it for like a job, I feel like not good enough. I felt like you've got to like take pride into what you do, and that's exactly what I set out to do from the beginning till now. And I don't care who I work with, whether I be an amateur athlete or a professional athlete, I'll still give them the best like
Yeah.
hour session that I possibly can, and the amount of attention that I give them, and the quality of the content will all be scientifically proven, and there'll always be a reason behind things. And I've
Uh-huh.
realized that obviously working with you a lot recently, you need to be around the right people to get that, and to keep it up and to find new ideas. I feel like once you get into a process of just looking at stuff on Instagram and then taking it and then replicating it, and you don't, there's a lot of coaches now on Instagram who just do drills because it looks good.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's portrayed one-to-one coaching as a bad thing, because I know now as a team coach and volunteer coach as well, there's a lot of people who don't actually agree with one-to-one coaching. And I feel like it's because of the people who just try to replicate what other people do, and they see it on Instagram, Facebook. Oh, that looks good, jumping over hurdles. Them ladders, do not get me started on them ladders, by the way.
Oh, mate, I know. I've
And
seen loads of like from the strength conditioning side. Like I've seen people going crazy. Like that's not going to make you quick. It's not going to make you like. It's all nice like doing the little fancy feet stuff. But
looks good.
when you're going to replicate that on a football pitch, or like when you're going to replicate that
Exactly.
anywhere really?
But it's just like I said, and I can totally understand why some people actually think it's a bad thing. But in terms of what I deliver, it's just everything. There has to be a reason behind it. I feel like
Yeah.
that's just. I feel like if you get into a process of that, just generally in life, and to think why you're doing everything, literally, not like why you might pick up a glass, because obviously you know what I mean, but
Yeah.
just like some things you need to think about why. But if you become overcritical of asking yourself why, that's when you start mentally problems, I think.
Yeah. Uh-huh. No, 100%. You've got to think about everything's got to have a purpose and a reason. Like, there's no point like talking about the sessions, the fancy footwork drills. You've got to look at the person, look at the athlete, or look at even if it's like a young kid that you train, like what do they need to actually work on, not like what looks good. And if
Yeah.
you want to see them benefit, there's no point you putting a fancy session on for someone. It looks good, but their performance isn't actually getting anywhere. Like you'll end up progressing when you see they're progressing on the pitch or whatever it is, if it's in the gym, whatever. So we can relate it to anything. But
Yeah, definitely.
moving a little bit on, in terms of progression anyway, how do you feel, or what do you feel has kind of helped your confidence as a coach progress the more that we've kind of moved through it, and
Oh,
especially knowledge-wise as well?
good question. So obviously when I first started with youth amateur athletes and then to semi-pro and now professionals, which I'm very honored to spend time with. I feel like if you spend time with professionals, you just, I don't know what it
Yeah,
is. I don't know, you just get a buzz really.
yeah,
Um, Not saying I don't like when I'm with like the younger ones, but I feel like when I first started off, the content of my drills weren't as good. They really weren't. I look back and think, like, I look at some of them actually, and I'm like, did I actually do that drill? Like, and then now I look at some of the content that I do and some of the drills, like, I felt like it's developed a lot in terms of the quality of the service, definitely. So in terms of knowledge-wise, my knowledge, I think my knowledge has definitely improved, but that's through reflection, looking back constantly at stuff that I've done, and also just through obviously learning along my degree alongside of that. So like I say, everything's got a reason behind why I do everything, why I might have brought like some of the GPS monitors in just to track how well the player's actually working. And then stuff like different bits of equipment, such as pole. I started to bring in, I think it was poles, because I used them as hurdles as well as also just for movement patterns, stuff like that. I felt like my knowledge in terms of the use of the equipment and also the content of my drills has improved. But as a confidence, I wouldn't have said I became more confident or less confident. I just think I've developed more of a belief into why I've actually done stuff. Why I do specific things or drills within the session. I just working with better athletes hasn't really affected my confidence. Obviously, I get more nervous than I would, because obviously I'm not at the level they are.
Yeah, a little bit more
definitely.
pressure.
But other than that, I wouldn't say my confidence has changed. Definitely not.
Yeah, well, I think you've got to be a confident lad to do what you've done. Like when you started out with 14, going to coach people, like, as a coach, you need to be confident. Like it takes a lot to like stand in front of a group of lads, even if they're like 8, 9 years old, like, and produce a session sort of thing. It still takes a bit of confidence, and you've got parents watching and stuff. So you've obviously always had that, and I feel like with confidence, the more that you do, the more hours that you put in, the more people that you work in front of, the more confidence just comes naturally anyway, without you probably even realizing that it comes.
Yeah, do you know what it is, right? You say that. Put me in a room with like strangers. I'm the most quietest person ever. Like just generally, like even if like I knew some of them, like I'm like not. I'm an introvert really. Like I don't thrive for like attention of other people. Like I'm not like loud. Or when it comes to coaching's a different total ball game. That's when I like come alive, sort of thing. I feel like coaching, well, what I've learned from is it's like acting. And the best coaches are the best actors. And like you said, as a personal trainer as well, you can relate to that because you are a coach to an extent as well. And it's like some days you might not feel like it, but you need to power through it. Like you might have a really bad headache, but like relating to what was said at the beginning, it's about acting and coaching. You're not always going to be fine, but you've got to give whoever you're training the best intensity possible and consistently to get the best out of them, I always think. So it's about the best acting. Like I say, confidence-wise, as soon as I get onto a football pitch, yes, I'm at it constantly, but come off a football pitch, I'm very quiet, actually.
Yeah, I know.
So
well,
it's weird.
Talking about that, so like, there's a few things I can't remember. It was Modern Wisdom podcast I was listening to. If you've not listened to what Modern Wisdom, you need to. Chris Williamson. So I think it's Chris Williamson. He does a podcast. So he was talking about. I think he was on about Avicii, obviously, who passed away. He was on about introverts and extroverts, and there's actually different kind of like types of introverts and extroverts. And I think I'm probably the same as you. We're what we call introverts, extroverts. So we're very quiet and we keep ourselves to ourselves. But when we get into like conversation with the right people, or maybe I'm better. I talk one-to-one and I can talk all day. But if I'm talking in a group of people, I'll keep myself to myself and I'll just listen, and I might whisper something to someone else. Sort of thing.
That's definitely me.
Like a more one-to-one that you come out your shell when you're talking about something that you're passionate about. And he got into talking about like that's what Avicii kind of needed, this like someone to talk to, like heart to heart and stuff, and like talk his emotions, and he didn't want to go out party and stuff like extroverts normally do. So I think a lot of people are like that, and then a lot of coaches have to be like that. And you're talking about it being like a performance. If you look at like what's the Man City documentary that's on Amazon, I forgot what it's called now. But if anybody's watched that, you've seen Pep Guardiola, how like enthusiastic and stuff he is. But he's probably quite I don't know what he's like, to be fair. I don't know what he's like, but he's probably like quiet person outside of the change room and stuff.
Yeah, he's not going to be the same.
Yeah, he's not going to be like in your face like that all the time. It's like performance to get the players going and stuff. And he may have like I think he had to take a break after Bayern Munich, didn't he? He had a year. There was he had a
Yeah.
full year out and went away. So he obviously had things going on in his head mentally and whatever. He was struggling with stuff, but he still had to perform and give the players what they need to go out and obviously perform. So.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's a lot more to being coaching than just confidence and stuff, but you do have to be confident. And
Yeah,
the more
definitely.
you do, the better you become with it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to touch on this anyway. So how did you kind of manage to balance, like, first of all, starting off at college and stuff, and then going into uni, balancing university, obviously your business, working at your mom's coffee shop, and then bit of nightclub promoting and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
all these little things. How did you manage to balance it?
If I'm honest, I never really balanced uni, my business and social life. I felt like there was always just one thing dragging us down, and the rest wouldn't get the same um, intensity really. And probably why I ended up slacking in one area. So if I'd invest too much time and effort, like I always did, into say my businesses, then I'd not give as much energy in terms of my uni work or my other jobs. And it started to become a problem actually. I got mentally and physically exhausted. So I think it was Monday, finished uni session, Tuesday, same. Wednesday, I'd finish work because on Wednesday I get a day off.
Yeah.
But I'd actually work at my mom's coffee shop on the Wednesday, 9 to 5. And then I'd train myself, I'd train with my team 6 to 7. And then Thursday back to uni. Then I was coaching Thursday night, volunteer football coach. And then Friday it was uni. Then I was at the nightclub. And then Saturday, that eventually changed to a Saturday, which I'll talk about in a second. And then Saturday was football in the morning from like 9 o'clock. So I wouldn't get in from the nightclub till about, it used to be 2 o'clock in the morning, about 2. Then I eventually got it back at 12, sorry. And then Saturday morning, it was 9 till about 11. Then I was playing football, 1:30 to like 3. And then Sunday, I was back at work. And then sometimes I'd have a session on this Sunday night just to try and fit anyone in that I couldn't previously. So throughout that week, you try and identify the times of when I could actually like relax and like
Yeah.
spend time with my family, my girlfriend and my friends. And it's actually really hard. And
Yeah.
it affected my mood, my sleep pattern, productivity, social life. And I became too reliant upon other things, such as like caffeine, to try and get us through the days.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have time to really like meal prep like I wanted to. And my intensity with my training myself and coaching just started to go downhill. And it got to us really badly one day. I think it's because I had an absolute shocker of a game in football. And I was thinking, like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't do it. And it was just like, I've become too focused on the process that I was in. And long term, maybe, yes, it'll bring some success in terms of I'm still generating a good income, getting the right experience, coaching. But upon reflection, looking back, it did cause a lot of mental stress, and also it didn't bring happiness at all. So becoming too focused on my process and where I wanted to go was actually bad because it pushed away a lot of people for us, and especially family members and my girlfriend, my friends. It wasn't beneficial for me. And I feel like, yeah, it's good being, like you say, being on a good process, having a good mindset throughout that. But looking back now, especially when we're in lockdown, it's been a blessing for me, really, because now I've been able to spend that time that I didn't give to those that I didn't have time beforehand. Like, I've been able to go see my grandma a lot more, my granddad, my nana. I've been able to speak and get to know my dad's job properly, and also see my girlfriend a lot more, my friends. So it's been a blessing, really, lockdown for me personally, because the past like year or two just being like non-stop,
Yeah.
constantly. So I feel like, yeah, It's been quite a tough mental battle as well as physically, because I feel like obviously doing so many football sessions coaching and like you do yourself personal training, you don't realize how much you actually get involved in it.
Yeah.
And especially after I bought my Apple Watch and set how many calories I actually burn just coaching is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like I think I burn about 400 to 600 just in like around an hour session, just help like running around, setting the cones up, getting involved in the demos.
Yeah.
You don't realize how much that takes its toll on it. And now I understand why I was always flat out come my football games, training, and I was always straight to bed as soon as I got in. So yeah, mate, it was a very long time, and I'm glad it's over with now, if I'm honest.
The thing that there's loads of great points there, mate. Like balance is a big thing, especially when like being like an entrepreneur, a businessman, especially being on your own. You have to kind of, I always feel that you do have to have a good stint where you do kind of run yourself into the ground. It's to kind of get to the point where you can actually be a bit more flexible and have like a bit more balance. At the same time, you can't burn yourself out too much, because then it starts affecting other parts of your life. Like if you've got a girlfriend or whatever, like your family and stuff, you can't let it get to the point where it's starting affecting that. Or sometimes it actually takes it until they get to the point where it's starting affecting other parts of your life or even your own health. Like you were talking about like having caffeine and the long nights that you probably weren't sleeping well. And I'm gonna do a podcast talking about caffeine and stuff like that, because a lot of people don't realize the effects of like how much having poor sleep can affect you, especially like long term. If you're not getting enough sleep, if you only get like 4 or 5, even 6 hours a night, long term, it massively affects your health. The caffeine, constantly moving around and not giving any sort of time to just chill, can affect you long term. But like I said, I do feel there's got to be periods where you do have to kind of put social life, partying, doing the things you enjoy on the back burner, and focus on your business, and then hopefully one point you can you be able to take a step back, because you might be in a better position financially, your business might be doing all right, you might be able to take that day off rather than just like having to get as many people and as many clients and as many business hours or whatever in. But it does take a lot of grind, as they call it, grind, to get to that point, which it's kind of good. Like the same as me, lockdown's been a blessing, because I can kind of back off. Obviously not doing one-to-one stuff, I can kind of back off and focus more on my online stuff, which is quite nice, because that's the stuff that I like haven't had enough time when you're doing God knows how many hours a week.
Yeah, totally, mate. You say that, right? The amount of people I train, right, like a week, and I wasn't actually getting the chance to train myself. And I was thinking, like, no wonder, like, I'm not at the fitness I used to be, like, level-wise. Obviously, it's all good, like, trying to help people constantly. But I felt like, especially most recently, if I'm not in the best shape I can be possibly, like, then it's going to take its toll down the line, especially when I'm, like, trying to set, like, a good example for everyone else. And I feel like when you're, like, a figure to other people, especially the young kids, I feel like you need to set the best example. So during lockdown, I've been spending a lot more time improving my fitness massively in terms of just like cardio wise, not weight wise, because I just wanted to just generally just get a lot fitter than I have been previously. And I've been investing a lot more time in myself than I previously have been. Like I've said to you, I've been like reading that legacy book, which I thought really good.
Great book.
Never had time beforehand to read, like thoroughly read it through. I've been doing like online courses I've always said I wanted to do. And it's just like stuff like that, like just like engaging with people I've never been able to engage with. So in terms of lockdown, it's been really good for me, especially with just finishing my degree. Now I can focus on like the things, like I've said before, that I've never had previously. So I'm quite happy in terms of like right now, just mentally and also physically as well.
Yeah, it's just you've used this time to kind of invest in yourself, which is, I think, lockdown's been the perfect time to do those things, that reinvest in yourself. And you talk about you up your fitness levels and stuff. That'll first of all like help you when it comes to those long days and stuff, because you're gonna have more energy. You're fitter. You're gonna be able to like deal with more volume in terms. Even if you're just demonstrating sessions, you're not actually doing them yourself. You're gonna be fitter, so it's gonna help you like recovery wise. Like it's stupid. Like people who have busy business schedules, if you keep yourself fit, your energy levels is going to be so much better than if you just kind of sack it off or whatever. And also, a big thing that I believe in, especially in the industry that we're in. Like obviously, I have more football and more fitness, but you are your own business card. Like you've got to look good, especially in my kind of industry. If there's some personal trainers I look at, I'm like I wouldn't be going to see him because he doesn't look in good shape. The people who I follow, the people who I would buy programs off or one-to-one PT off, they've got to be absolute machines. They've got to be where I want to be, the level that I want to be at. Like you're working on your football skills. I've seen you've been working on your fitness. So especially when you're demonstrating the sessions, if you're out of breath and if you're struggling losing the ball when you're demonstrating stuff, it doesn't look good if you're thinking like he's telling us to do this, but he can't do it himself. Fair enough, you're not going to be at people's level with top pros and stuff, but
it totally. Do you know what it totally relates back to? That coaching. If you can't replicate it, you're not going to set a good you're not going to be an idol or an inspiration to others. It totally, and it's massive in personal training. I think it especially personal because people want to aspire to be you and your body. Like as bad as it sounds, like they do.
Yeah.
Like that's never going to change. Like in terms of like people looking at other people's body and comparing themselves. I feel like football's a bit more flexible in that because you can have coaches, like you say, with that look a lot different, especially in the Premier League, that look a lot different and stuff. The body shapes and images aren't the best, but they still gain the respect because of the knowledge. So football, in terms of comparing personal training and body images and setting an example, needs to be the best possibly personally. And I hate to say it because it shouldn't be like that really, but it has. I feel like it has to be to a good extent. While football, a lot more flexible in terms of coaching and training.
Yeah, I think in terms of football, like it's more the ability on the ball. So that's like your business card. If you've got a coach who's decent on the ball, like I've seen coaches like who have joined in sessions and they're ridiculous, and I just look like you get respect earned straight away, and then also you can have a bit of banter with the lads and stuff if you've got if you're a decent footballer and you join in sessions and stuff. I think that's totally. And even the managers who are a bit older, who maybe aren't in good shape or whatever. Like I know that he was the one who always has a cigarette in his mouth. I can't remember. There used to be one who used to always have a cigarette in his mouth. I used to chew tobacco or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but something like that. But again. I don't know. I don't remember who it is, but there's probably players who are like that, or so coaches who are like that, or managers, but they've previously played at a decent level, sort of thing. So they've kind of not earned the stripes in a certain way, but you can get away with it a little bit more being a manager. But as a coach, you've got to be half decent. Like I said, you are your own business card, especially in the fitness industry and in your industry as well. But talking about kind of last little point. An effective schedule during lockdown and how to make the most of your time. Just walk us through like a brief day in the life sort of thing, or kind of how have you made your schedule as effective as possible during this time?
At the beginning of each week, like you, I like my whiteboards. I write a list down of things daily I want to do, and then I'll write an overall weekly of what I want to achieve, and that's kept me focused certainly miles better at the beginning 2 weeks than I did. I started slacking at the beginning of the 2 weeks. I started just having days off, and then I started really getting into gear with things. So having daily objectives to achieve, massive, and then weekly objectives as well. I don't know about monthly objectives because we don't know how long in terms of what your goals are. We don't know when we're going to come out of lockdown. So I'd take it day by day, week by week currently, in case anything's changed rapidly. But I don't think they will anytime soon. And then in terms, do you want us to go through like what we talked about in terms of footballers, or do you want us to just go through my usual schedule?
Just everything. Go through yours, and then we'll kind of discuss like how we feel it would be beneficial for footballers to set up their day.
Right. Yeah, spot on. So, like I say, daily and weekly objectives to start with before anything. And then I always have something like that can spark. I feel like it might not be true that it might spark your brain up, but like something that gets us going. And I feel like always having a coffee in the morning, someone else might have a different thing. So it might be like splashing the face with water, like cold water. Yeah. I always use a coffee to spark my day up. And then it might not have an impact, but in terms of me mentally, it does to me. That's just my own like prop of spark of my day. So having a coffee in the morning for me is essential. And then in terms of what I've been doing, it's been either getting some work done, either going for a quick run or planning whatever I need to plan for the rest of the day. So I'll plan that out and then look to meet my daily objectives throughout the full day. Obviously, this could change whether you have one-to-one clients or online clients, but I try to minimize the time that I'm on social media throughout that day. And usually I just like look back at the beginning of the day, and I think it's the end, the halfway point, like around 12ish lunch, then about at the end. And that just obviously keeps us updated, but I'm not spending too much time massively on it. And then towards the day, like yourself probably does, you start to like cool down, reading either a book, listening to a podcast on my walk, and just really taking other aspects of life into consideration rather than just like social media, playing on your PlayStation. I feel like reading and podcasts now massively just open your mind up a lot more. And it's something that I've tried to not do as much in the past, because some people, especially when you're younger, you find it boring.
Yeah.
You do.
I used
You
to
find
hate
listening
it,
to podcasts and books boring, but you start to realize how beneficial these like tools are into sharpening your mind a lot more. So in terms of my daily schedule, it's very flexible, but it's got the basic essentials of what I need to do. So I'm not restricting myself. Oh, I've got to do this at 1 o'clock. I've got to do this at 2 o'clock, because nobody's going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Like you give you rough, like yourself does in the morning, 9 o'clock we do a workout. But from there, you're not going to say to yourself, oh, I've got to do this by 9:30. I've got to do that, because long term, it's not going to be effective at all.
Yeah, and I think as well, if you set times on stuff, like there's going to be certain things where you can't like procrastinate all day and do something like waste time pretty much. But you'll kind of like beat yourself up if you don't get this work done in an hour. Like you just take your time of it and get it done to the best of your quality. As long as you give yourself enough time to get all the set things that you need to get done on that day done. Like don't worry about ticking off a big 20-page of like list of things that you need to do. Just focus on like, it's like the 80-20 rule. Like I think I don't know if I've talked about it before, but like try and get that top 20% that you need to get done. If you get that done on a day, you'll progress. And then obviously if you can get the other 8 things that you kind of need to do, like that, they'll be beneficial to do. Try and get them done in the day if you can, if you've got enough time. But then 1 or 2 or maybe 3 things at the top, you need to get them done. And then if you just keep getting them done, you'll progress. So don't think to worry about that too much. But yeah, setting out your day, like having that little, I like the little trigger, like sort of thing, or I forgot what you call it. I forgot what they call it now. There's like a name for what it is, but like a trigger thing, like footballers do it. Something like having a routine, something before a game. I forgot the name for what it is now. It's like a psychology thing, but having something like that, like for me, I'm up, cold shower, diary, walk, then coffee, and then I sit down on my way. So my routine's a little bit longer, but having that routine, having a coffee or something in the morning, just obviously the caffeine sparks your mind anyway. So so we'll move on to like a football routine. Do you have any sort of, how would you set out in terms of?
I feel like I'll let you put what I say in order or on a day about 7 for a full week. So I feel like you need to, first of all, I feel like you need to do stamina training, and it needs 100%. To be varied, definitely massively. But I feel like going on runs, especially massively recently, I've had players come in who's doing loads of running, and it's all in straight lines. So it's not football conditioning at all, because obviously your hips and your muscles and different joints are going through a lot more than just running in a straight line constantly with the occasional turn. It's completely different to football. Football is very explosive, changing directions. And that's why people find when I put them into my stamina training drills a lot harder. And it's more conditioned, obviously, to the sports. I feel like essentially everything needs to be conditioned. Like I say at the beginning, needs to have a reason why you're doing it. It's good, going for a 2-mile, 3-mile run for endurance and just health and well-being. Put a footballer in to that environment, sharp changing directions constantly. It's going to, on your joints and muscles especially, it's going to have a different impact massively. So stamina training, but it needs to be varied, like I said. Speed and agility, but not the ladders.
Yeah.
I feel like mobility and stretching massively key part. I know you'll touch upon that
Yeah.
because you're a good man in terms of doing your stretching and mobility.
Yeah. I love my mobility.
Um, so stamina, speed and agility, mobility and flexibility. I would definitely say ball work, because a lot of people have been forgetting to actually get touches on the ball.
Yeah.
And when you go back into that football environment of getting many touches on the ball as you can, it's the transition from not doing that is going to be a lot different. And I feel like running with the ball and without the ball is totally different. So ball control, ball technical skills, keep them up regardless of how easy they are. And then I would say reflection and also analysis, looking at other footballers constantly, just because you're only seeing your view of football and others around you, but you're not taking the best. You'll take good parts, but they're only from like the players who are the same ability as you around you.
Yeah.
If you watch, say, the elite athletes and their mindset, The Last Dance, Michael Jordan, great
Yeah.
watching that at the
Class.
minute. If you take little parts of and put them into your game, little parts that you like, and try and replicate them. I'm not saying try and be that person, but if you take little parts of their game and put them into your game, you're certainly going to become a better player. And then, so that's what I want you to try and put into
Yeah.
when to just
Yeah.
all them things more or less.
Yeah, I'll quickly run through it because I think we're going to talk about it a little bit more in depth on your podcast. So I'm going to end up coming on yours anyway.
Did I say strength training as well?
Yeah, well, yeah, I was going to
Did
say
I?
we'll talk.
I think I did.
Yeah, but we'll
Can't
obviously
remember.
there's a strength and conditioning stuff as well as massive for footballs. But you talked about stamina, obviously not just running straight lines. I think obviously you need to build an aerobic base. So going for like your long distance runs and stuff is fine. Probably I wouldn't waste too much time, like once a week for that sort of stuff's good. Just obviously having a general aerobic base, being able to run, you need to be able to do that because you do like, I
Yeah.
think I take 10k, something like that on average, like a footballer does in a game, roughly.
Yeah, it
Obviously, it
is. Yeah.
fluctuates from position and stuff, but you want about changing direction and stuff like that. That's massively important. So I don't know if people realise, but I've heard this from a strength conditioning coach called Cal Dietz, who's an American. He does NFL players, hockey players, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But actually running like laterally. So if you ran side to side, obviously not facing forward, just like laterally running side to side, like side step sort of thing, you're actually your body isn't actually used to run that way. So your heart rate increases more than you would if you ran in a straight line. A lot of people don't realise that because your body, like, it's like moving like a crab, pretty much. It's the simplest way to move it. If you move that, your heart rate actually goes higher than if you were to run in a straight line. Obviously, you have to run at a decent pace to get to that point. But working that, which is probably why people find it harder to do like the shuttle drills and stuff like that. Working different things like that. Also working different paces. So not just doing your half an hour, 5K, 10K runs, splitting it up as well, because football, like perfect example, you never constantly run. You're always stopping, starting, and you're always working at different intensities. So different intensities, whether you split your sessions up like 4-minute runs with a minute rest, repeat them a few times, or you go at a shorter distance sprint stuff. So you're working like pitch sprints. There's a few ones you can do like box to boxes. So you like walk the length of the box, sprint to the other end of the box, walk to the touchline and back, and then just repeat them a few times. There's loads. Red zone running's a good thing. Want to follow for stuff like that. I know they've got quite a good. They've got quite a good bit of stuff on their Instagram and Twitter and whatever they have. But varying the intensity. So split them up. So I normally have like one stamina day, base running day, which is just like your steady run, keeping it in a nice steady pace. Also try and breathing through your nose. I'm reading a book at the minute, which is big on nasal breathing, just because you can. I've put a post on it, so check out the post. It tells you a bit more about it. But pretty much, it's more beneficial to breathe in through your nose for a long period of time rather than trying to mouth breathe, because mouth breathing creates a lot more stress than nose breathing. So you want to try and keep your body as calm as possible. Obviously, when you're doing sprints and stuff like that, it's very, very hard to breathe through your nose. So sometimes you might have to breathe through your mouth. But practicing that, like, check out my post that I've done on that. Obviously working different angles and stuff like that. And then the strength conditioning side of it, which we'll touch a little bit more on your podcast, loads of single leg works, loads of plyometrics, because obviously you want to be explosive, moving side to side, jumping up for headers, changing direction, which will transfer over into your agility, acceleration work. loads of hamstring work as well, because a lot of footballers get hamstring injuries, which will help them in running. But that's just briefly core stuff, single leg stuff, hamstring work like glute bridges, Nordic curls. But like I said, I'll run through that more in depth in our
Yeah.
podcast. So that's just briefly mobility. Got to do mobility. Try and do at least, I say, 20 minutes each day. So there's a few S&C courses which recommend a 2-to-1 ratio of training to recovery. So pretty much I always stretch for at least 10 minutes after I train. And then, like you said, ball work, get on the ball as much as you can. So that's pretty much
Yeah,
everything
definitely.
covered in terms of the routine. How to split it up, there's obviously certain ways you can split it up to be most beneficial, but you need to make sure you have your rest days as well. So at least one rest day, I think, at the minute, because you should have kind of like a week off, maybe completely do nothing, then go build it up back into training. But because we're on lockdown and pre-season is, well, to be fair, we don't know when pre-season is going to be. I know a few football teams are back at the minute, but you can probably hammer training quite a bit at the minute and then just kind of taper down a little bit when you get closer to pre-season so you don't burn yourself out. But like I said, again, we'll run through that more in depth. But I think that's pretty much everything we wanted to cover. To be fair, today we'll probably be in about an hour. So we'll finish off with the three questions, which I know you've prepped for a little bit. Three questions. First one, 3 people, past or present, who you'd like to invite round for dinner.
So I thought about this one, but who I'd get the most interesting conversation within the 3.
Yeah.
So I picked Cruyff, Kobe Bryant, and Bill Gates for massive in the head, and just in terms of like just a general conversation and experiences you could get out of them 3 would be massive.
Yeah, good little dabble of athlete and business as well, because Bill Gates, like he's an empire, isn't he? Absolutely.
Well, it was just when I was researching Johan Cruyff, I looked and had the amount of people that like referenced him with the influence that he's had on their life and career was massive. Like there was like a list like that long. It was so that's and when I went over to Amsterdam and Ajax, there was a lot of information on him, just like someone massively who's had an influence on football as a whole.
Yeah.
As well as also playing styles and tactics. So I feel like he would bring a lot to the table, as well as Kobe Bryant, who's an amazing basketball player and also an influential speaker. And then Bill Gates in terms of business, and also his mindset was massive. So yeah, very smart. All very smart fellas.
Solid 3 there. And then 3 people you'd want to train with, so that could be in the gym or football-wise.
So I picked Mike Tyson, because I was watching a video the other day of Mike Tyson for the first one. He was just an absolute animal, and his mindset as well, massive. Just like he wants to come back into it, and like for his age, just like it's gotta be like crackers to like want to try and achieve that. Like Cristiano Ronaldo, massive. I feel like in terms of football and comparing him, like a lot of people compare him to Messi. I feel like in terms of gym and football, like you said, gym or football, I feel like he suits both of them very well.
Yeah.
Rather like, I know Messi's he's an amazing footballer, probably just as good, if not better, at football. But in terms of Ronaldo, gym, massively dedicated to it, as well as the football. So last one was Dwayne Johnson. Has to, for gym work. I feel like he'd be an absolute beast to train with. Imagine having him as a personal trainer, man.
Mate, he'd have you up at like, I think he gets up at like 3 a.m. and stuff like that. And have you not seen his gyms, man? He gets his own gym, moves around for him. Like wherever he's like doing his acting or whatever, they'll move his gym. I think they call it Iron Paradise or whatever it's called. They move it around for him. He's got his own portable one to Joe.
It's just when I was over in America last year, like especially Under Armour advertisement of him. He's got his own range out actually.
Yeah.
He's massive. Just didn't realize how much like people like really appreciated him.
Yeah.
So
he seems like a sound guy as well. He seems like
definitely. So I thought I'd vary it up with different egos and training methods and styles.
That'd be decent session that. And the last one thing that you'd say to yourself 5 years ago.
So I thought about this one actually quite a bit, and I'd say to myself, make the most of your time available. Don't let one day go to waste, because there's not one day you couldn't be doing something, whether that's self-development like everyone's doing now, checking up on family and friends, and taking up a new hobby. I feel like in the past, I'd waste a lot of days just sitting on Xbox or just doing nothing and just relaxing because I feel like rubbish. But there's not one day you couldn't be checking up on your grandma, checking up on your mates, or taking up a new hobby or interest. Like, there's not one day in life where you could not be doing something, if you know what I mean. Whether that's the littlest of things or the best thing possible and pushing yourself to your limit, whether it's something, I feel like you got, like, without going too deep into it, you've got a life and you've only got so many years and days, and it goes a lot quicker than people think. So make the most of time available. Massive.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest like fears, like not doing enough in my life, because I think about it constantly, like not doing everything that I know I could have in life, which is always. But no, mate, that's spot on. That's been a great episode. Thanks for coming on, mate.
Yeah, it's been a privilege, really. And
I know.
I'm looking forward to getting you on my own.
I know, mate. And then, shout out your podcast as well. What's your podcast name?
So that's Game Changer. Just talks to local business entrepreneurs, coaches, athletes, trainers like yourself, and hopefully we'll get that going in the next week too.
Good. Now you've put your intro out, and so to be fair, by the time this out, I think there'll be a few episodes out already. So check that out. Then your Instagram, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, all that sort of stuff.
So that's at Game Changer Podcast _on Instagram, and then all the links are there. Yeah. So if anyone's interested in that sort of stuff, make sure to check that one out.
And then your business Instagram was a Marksman 1-to-1 training.
At Marksman 1-to-1 training, and then that's with the numbers 1.
Yeah, spot on. All right, so anybody's in the North East who wants 1-to-1 football training, get at this guy. But no, mate, that's been spot on. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, no worries, mate. It's been really good. It's some really interesting topics. Obviously, I didn't want to go too in depth about them.
We can talk all day about this, but
massively.
Spot on.
Massively.
All right, cheers, mate. Spot on.
No worries.